Okay, we'll start. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahabhiryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Gnanti Bhurida Jana. Let we be protected, let we be nourished. Let we strive with energy and vigor. Let our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om, peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om, peace, peace, peace. Your nectar-like words and warm and inspiring life stories, eulogized by learned sages, are indeed eradicator of shoots of ignorance. Those who take these are auspicious to hear and propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactor of the world. So we are studying Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. Sri Ramakrishna, as name shows, Rama and Krishna. Ramakrishna as an incarnation. Now, what is the driving force of an incarnation? The divine that comes, that descends from the highest abode, as it were. Why I said as it were, because it is not that high or low. We compare relatively. So from our standpoint, it is all relative. That's why we say he descended from high abode, but actually he's the innermost being of ourself. He manifests out of love. Chira unmada prema pathar. Chira unmada. Unmada means it is like all the time turmoil. Out of love, he wants to come. He wants to impart the nectar of spirituality to the world for the benefit of the world. As Sri Ramakrishna used to go to the roof of Kutibadi, that means where Mathur Babu used to stay, he also stayed in that same house. And when there was the sound of various conch shell and other instruments, so he would go on the top of that roof and would shout and cry for the devotees. Oh, devotees, where are you? Please come. I cannot stay without your companionship. So all these says that Sri Ramakrishna liked devotees. He was impatient to talk about God. He said, he used to tell that my throats have been pursed, as it were. So please come, I cannot wait anymore. And later Swami Vivekananda also realized. That is why he said once, what Sri Ramakrishna is? He's Love personified, love personified. And other direct disciples also said that what love that we had from Sri Ramakrishna was greater, much greater than love of mother or father or any relation. It is difficult to fathom that love. Even we don't understand how much our parents love us. But this is unconditional love, no expectation. And especially he loved his vehicle. Like there is a concept in Vaishnava philosophy. It is called Kaya Buha. Kaya Buha means 3 or 4 or few are the manifestation, divine aspect. Different divine aspect is manifested in few people. It is to fulfill one object. As for instance, in Ramayana we find Rama had 4 brothers, or Rama, and he had 3 more brothers. And also he had some companions like Hanuman and others. So to achieve one goal, here we find Sri Ramakrishna selects Narendranath to fulfill his goal in this world, goal to spread spirituality. So naturally, it is Sri Ramakrishna who is manifesting in Vivekananda also, in Holy Mother, and also all the direct disciples. So this is also, we can say, Kaya Buha. That means it's encircled. And the divine is manifesting in these forms. So naturally, it is the same soul as we love more. As we find in Upanishad that says, Nava are pattu kamaya pati priyam bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya patim priyam bhavati. So whatever we love for our own self, own sake. But here this love is very extraordinary. This love is loving the self without any ambiguity, without any selfish end, without any return, without any fruits. So this love we cannot understand until or unless we grow to that stature. So without taking much time, I'll request Shayan today to read page 778. Narendra visited the past. That third.
Number 3.
Witnessing.
Number 3. Witnessing the Master's divine power, Narendra's awe, and speculations.
Okay, just a minute. Is this audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and my sound is audible?
Yes.
Yes, Swami.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you. Narendra visited the master after various people told him about the master's pure life and his samadhi. He had not even dreamt that seeing the master would cause him to undergo any mental change or have any extraordinary experience. But the situation turned out contrary to what he expected. Narendra's previous visions and experiences seemed dull and trifling compared to the extraordinary experiences he had during his second and third visits to the master at Dakshineshwar. His exceptional intellect was baffled by this mystery. So he faced a very difficult problem when he tried to understand the master's personality. He could find no reason to doubt that those extraordinary experiences had been brought on by the master's inscrutable divine power. The more Narendra thought about this, the more he became lost in wonder.
See, one thing comes to my mind that in our childhood we see the nearest water body, maybe a small lake, maybe a pond, maybe a river. But when you see the ocean for the first time, it's just amazes us how huge, and also we cannot see any shore there. So maybe some such experience that Narendra had, it is like he must have a simple light. But when Sri Ramakrishna touched him, he experienced that a luminous body of sun, as it were. So the difference was immense and it was immeasurable. And that power which was overpowering, that's why here Swami Shardananji said, inscrutable divine power. It is difficult, from our ordinary understanding, we cannot understand this. It is immeasurable. So, yes, now let's go.
Number 4, the extent to which Narendra was a spiritual aspirant. One is truly amazed when thinking about the wonderful experience that Narendra had during his second visit to the master. According to the scripture, an ordinary aspirant with a limited amount of power attains that rare type of experience by practicing austerities and renunciation over a long period of time. And once it happens, the aspirant becomes overwhelmed by the manifestation of God in the Guru and surrenders to the Guru completely. It is surprising that Narendra did not do that. His reaction is evidence that he occupied a high position in the spiritual world. He was not overwhelmed by that event because he had such a great capacity for spiritual power. Instead, he was able to maintain self-control and proceed to engage himself in examining and evaluating the master's divine character and behavior for a long time. However, although he was not overwhelmed and did not surrender to the master completely, from that point on, he was undoubtedly greatly attracted to him.
We can understand this in a simple way. See, in our junior classes, we study something about science, maybe a formula. But what happens when the same person meets an Einstein? So it is unfathomable. But still we understand Narendra had inherent power. That is why he was not overwhelmed. He withstood with the examining mind. Ordinary mind will surrender, but still he was not that weak. And he did not surrender, rather he wanted to explore further. He wanted to understand what this power is. It is not for himself, it is for us, because we are doubting Toms. All the time we have various doubts. So this is divine Leela. It's a divine play. Until or unless spirituality presented in such a form, we cannot understand. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna, as it were, became a disciple and played this part. Now we have missed one thing, one note. Read that one.
So number 5.
This one we have already said.
Oh, so a note, short footnote. We have already said that when he first went to Dakshineshwar, Narendra was preparing for the FA examination at the General Assembly's institution in Calcutta. Mr. Hasty, a liberal-minded scholar, was the principal of the college. Narendra had a special love and respect for this Englishman because of his manifold talents, his pure life, and his simple and loving behavior towards the students. One day, the professor of literature suddenly fell ill, and Mr. Hasty taught the class on literature to the FA students. While discussing the poems of Wordsworth, he mentioned that the poet had experienced ecstasy while enjoying the beauty of nature. When the students did not understand the mystery of Samadhi, he tried to explain as much as he could, and then finally said, the state of Samadhi originates from a pure mind and its concentration on a particular object. Rarely does one find a person who has achieved that state. At present, I have seen only Ramakrishna Paramahamsa of Dakshineshwar in the state of Samadhi. You will understand this subject if you go there and see him in that state. Thus, Narendra first heard about the master from Mr. Hasty. He met the master for the first time at Surendra Mitra's house. But as he was visiting the Brahma Samaj, it seems that he might have also heard about the master there.
Yeah, so the state of absorption, where all differences are gone. So what happens that time? So that is called samadhi. And in that samadhi, man loses the outer sense perception, but he is totally poised within himself. So this state was depicted in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. And Professor Hasty could understand that it happens due to purity of the person and long practice of meditation. So Narendranath visited him and then he was overwhelmed.
Number 5. The degree to which the master was attracted to Narendra. For his part, the master felt an attraction to Narendra from their first meeting. Endowed with the knowledge of Brahman, the large-hearted Guru became intensely anxious to transmit his life experience to the worthy disciple as soon as he met him. The magnitude of that eagerness cannot be measured. That kind of unselfish and unmotivated impatience arises only in the hearts of self-controlled and self-contented gurus, prompted by divine inspiration. When the great teachers of the world see worthy disciples, this inspiration drives them to share the knowledge of Brahman and make those disciples perfect and free from worldly desires. Footnote: the scriptures call this Shambhavi initiative.
Hmm. So we find in our mothers love us so much that she even denies herself and she gives food for us or give food to us. And one point comes to my mind that it is not because he was a attractive person, but Sri Ramakrishna loved Narendranath. Why? Because he saw in him the Narayana, manifestation of Narayana. Later, it was pointed out to Sri Ramakrishna that if you love so much, even Narendranath objected that why you love so much. And then he would say, how can I tell you, I cannot live without you. So this is even, we can see like in worldly lovers also, but this is extraordinary. Because Sri Ramakrishna saw in him Narayana, Naranarayana. When people said, if you think of him so much, then after your death, you'll become Narendranath, like Jada Bharat. But then he was confused, apparently confused. Then he prayed to mother, and mother told, not worry, they don't understand. You don't love Naren, you see in him Narayana. That's why you love him. So it is a different understanding. From worldly point of view, we understand that he was loving Narendra. He was impatient to give spiritual illumination to him. But it is because he saw in him the Narayana, that's why he loved so much. And he used to love so much that sometimes he would go to Calcutta for that only. Once it happened that one devotee was telling that he used to live in Dhaka. Dhaka is about maybe 400 miles away or maybe more from Calcutta. So that gentleman used to live there. So while making pranam, he said, I know who you are. Even I saw in my house that you came there to bless me. So Narendra said, how can I deny? Because many times I saw him in my study that Sri Ramakrishna went there. So this is a different kind of love, which is very difficult to understand. So, yeah, go ahead.
Number 6. The master's attempt to impart the knowledge of Brahman to Narendra on the first day. The master was undoubtedly greatly inclined to use Samadhi to impart the knowledge of Brahman to Narendra on the day he went to Dakshineshwar alone. When Narendra fully surrendered to the master 3 or 4 years later and was imploring him again and again for Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the master would refer to this incident and ask him in front of us, why are you pestering me? Didn't you tell me that you have parents at home and needed to serve them? At other times, the master would say, look, once a man died and became a ghost. He was alone for a long time, So he felt terribly lonely and began to look everywhere for a companion. Whenever he heard that someone had died in a particular place, he would rush there, thinking that he might finally have a companion. But when he saw that the dead person's soul had become liberated by the touch of Ganges water or by some other means, he would be disappointed and return to his own place to lead his lonely existence. That poor ghost never had a companion. My condition was similar to his. When I met you, I thought that I had finally found a companion, but you cried out that you had parents, so I couldn't have a companion. Thus, the master teased Narendra about that incident.
Yeah, this story, another way it was narrated that when a person was had an accident and that ghost thought he has died, so he thought he will have a companion. But as soon as he went there, he found that man stood up and cleaned himself and was started walking. So this way, he never got a companion. But anyway, the idea that he wanted to convey is that even Narendra, like pure heart, also cried out that I have parents at home. What are you doing to me? So just to tell him jokingly that you, when I wanted to impart that truth to you, you were not ready. So, okay, get ready, take time, meditate on it, purify yourself. Because without struggle, if someone gets, he would not give that value. That's why we see, the children of wealthy people are generally, it's not a particular, generally spoiled because they receive all the facilities when they take birth. That's why, in Gujarat, what they do, they send them to have a business without any support. And then they learn that how difficult it is to deal with people in the world. And that way they learn. So Sri Ramakrishna wanted to train him to perspire for this goal so that he understands the importance of it. It is like this. Suppose a person wants to scale Everest. So he'll have to have a long training and endure a difficult situation and even face death. Whereas a person can go by helicopter, but that will not give that one. The struggle that one endures and faces and difficulties he overcomes, then only that joy comes. If someone is dropped at the summit, he'll not get that joy. And also, there is no credit in it. Therefore, it is better for even Narendranath that he strove afterwards. And he wanted this to experience Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If it was given beforehand, then he would not give that importance, or maybe it is to show us that one should earn for this. It is not good to get from someone as a dole, as a help. So this we can find in such life. Yes, go ahead.
Number 7. The difference between Narendra's experiences during his first and second visit. We have already mentioned that during Narendra's second visit, When the master saw him panic stricken on the verge of entering Samadhi, he stopped transmitting it. Because of how this incident turned out, it is no wonder that the master had some doubt about his earlier visions and experiences regarding Narendra. We think that is why, when Narendra came to Dakshineshwar for the third time, the master overwhelmed him with his power and extracted from him many secrets regarding his life. He was relieved when he found that Narendra's answers confirmed his visions. If our assumption is correct, it is proof that Narendra did not have the same kind of samadhi on his second and third visits, but had two different kinds of experience.
In the first experience, he saw that everything was first revolving and melting away. And he was at the verge of merging that unified state of existence. That is why he cried out. But the second one was somewhat different because he answered the questions posed by Sri Ramakrishna. So, Sri Ramakrishna, as a wonderful guru, he also could understand that because his previous, because not getting ready for this, it will be not good to transmit. And that's why he stopped. So anyway, this is what we understand. Yeah, go ahead next.
Number 8, the master's apprehension about Narendra. After questioning Narendra, the master was relieved of anxiety about him to some extent, but not completely. He knew that a man could achieve extraordinary fame and influence if he had but one or two supernatural powers or qualities. But Narendra displayed 18 such powers and those to their full extent. If Narendra failed to direct these powers through a spiritual channel and use them to realize the ultimate truth about God, humanity, and the world, the result would be undesirable. The master said that if that happened, Narendra would found a new religion or a sect as other religious leaders had and would become famous throughout the world. But to fulfill the need of the present age, it was necessary to realize and propagate liberal spiritual truths. If Narendra failed to realize this and was unable to help in this pursuit, it would not be possible for him to do real good in the world. So, from that point on, the master was very eager that Narendra should, of his own will and without reservation, follow him and experience the spiritual truths just as he had.
Yeah, many times it happened that Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, when he said, never go for cultism, said, we are not here to propagate a cult. Rather, what we see here, the real religion is to be preached through all paths. This is a special manifestation of truth through Sri Ramakrishna. Swamiji said, is Sri Ramakrishna hungry for his name and fame? Never. So though Narendranath had that power to start a different denomination or a religion, but Sri Ramakrishna wanted to channelize that power for greater good of humanity. Because Sri Ramakrishna knew what world is coming in future. People will fight for small things. People will fight to show that their religion is the highest. And when Narendranath came to Chicago to attend the Parliament of Religions, that was the predominant idea. And Christianity wanted to show that it is higher than all religions. But the same platform was used by him, and people had a taste. What is that universal religion where there is no barrier, no separation, and man can follow any path he likes? This freedom is speciality of this time. That's why people, they don't want to be limited by anything. And Narendranath also was depicted as breaker of all barriers, nationality, religion, sects, sectarianism, all kinds of barriers. There is a song like that you are the breaker of all barriers. So we find this, that Sri Ramakrishna wanted to channelize his energy for greater good of humanity, so that people understand that various paths, various faiths lead to the same goal. Therefore, there is no need of fighting. That is the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna never discarded any religion. Only he said that our urge should be sincere, and one should strive sincerely, earnestly. Then one can reach any way one likes. So this is the universal path, and Narendranath's energy should have been channelized, and that was channelized by Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, go ahead.
The master used to say, under quotes, as watercress and some weeds grow in ponds and small pools where there is no current, so religious cults and narrow-minded sects develop in a religious world where people are satisfied with a partial truth that they think is the whole truth. The quote ends. It is really amazing to consider the many ways in which the master tried to give Narendra the experience of the whole truth, lest he, who was endowed with extraordinary intelligence and mental qualities, go astray and form a sect of his own.
Yeah. So we find what Narendra did. He saw that we have some avenues. We have avenue of work. We have avenue of emotion. We have power of concentration. And we have also hunger for knowledge. So he tried to develop these avenues and use that power, whatever power that we have, to channelize through these four paths. That is why he conceived Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Is it his own finding? No. It was there, but it was not presented in the phrases that's understandable, or it is appealing for modern mind. That is his genius. And of course, various isms like dualism, qualified monism, and monism or non-duality. It existed, but lots of quarrel used to happen. Even even today, that is going on. Only he, out of his great genius, out of his love for the humanity, he expressed that though we see many, whenever we project our mind outside, we see many. There is no escape from it. But the truth is one, manifesting in different ways. So it looks very simple, but it is because of his propagation for last 125 years or maybe 129 years. These are available to us. But think of that time when this was not available. They used to fight and people were confused what truth is like. Now this is, gradually getting clearer and clearer, even by science. Science also would say that energy is one, manifesting in so many forms. Say magnetism, electricity, then gravity, and all kinds of things. Strong force, weak force. But gradually all are becoming unified, or it is unified that is manifesting in so many forms. So this is the gift of Sri Ramakrishna through Narendranath, and it is the genius of Narendranath who could explain this simple truth to us. Only thing we need to open our minds to have it. Yes.
Number 9. The reason for the master's attraction to Narendra. It is evident that from the very beginning, the master's attraction to Narendra was based on many factors. This feeling of his did not easily assume a more normal form until he was convinced that it would be impossible for Narendra to go astray as we have just described. As we consider the reasons underlying the master's concern, we find that some of them originated from his wonderful visions about Narendra, and the rest arose from fear that Narendra would yield to the influence of the modern age and willingly accept the bondage of desire for a wife, wealth, or fame, and thereby fail to even partially fulfill the ultimate purpose of his great life.
So, in this world is within the sphere of Maya, in the realm of Maya. And Maya is defined as aghatana, ghatana, patiyashi. That means, aghatana means impossible things happen. So Sri Ramakrishna was careful about it. As we find, parents are very careful about their children. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna was always caring for his disciples so that their energy is channelized properly for the welfare of humanity. That is why he was very careful. Though he had inherent qualities, but anything could have happened. So when it was, there was a proposal for Narendra's marriage, Sri Ramakrishna went to mother. Mother, oh mother, please make it ineffective and nothing happens to Narendra. So this, because if he was entangled in the world, then he would miss his greater mission of life. Though Sri Ramakrishna had full confidence that he cannot go astray. Somebody came and informed Sri Ramakrishna that he is having bad company and he is having some food that is not permitted in Hinduism. Sri Ramakrishna did not believe. He said, don't come here if you see and find faults with Narendra. That is why, when he came to the West, it was difficult for a person to even eat that time, and nothing was available, which is, like, people from India, they complained that you have become lech, like outcast, because you have crossed the ocean and you have eaten with aliens. Therefore, you have become lech. But then Narendranath wrote back, if you are so touchy, then you could have sent a cook with me. So it is impossible. Here he was struggling hard. Sometimes he had no food. He had no shelter. So in that state, he struggled. But he was completely determined to fulfill the mission of his life. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna had full confidence in Narendranath. And whatever people said, he did not believe or bother to care for care for those. So here, even Narendranath, many times he had to endure whatever chance brought in front of him. And people here also blamed him because he used to smoke. And he would call a spade a spade. That used to upset his friends. So all this because he had less time and he had to fulfill the mission of his life.
Number 10. This attraction was natural and predestined. Due to his long practice of renunciation and austerity, the concept of the little I and mine had disappeared from the master's mind completely. He was eternally identified with God, the source of the universe, and he constantly felt that the Lord's work of doing good to humanity was his own duty. He was convinced that it was the will of the cosmic being that his body and mind would be the instruments by which the decline of religion in this present age would be halted. The experience we described earlier assured him that Narendra was not born merely to enjoy a few selfish pleasures, but that he had come down to earth because of his intense love for God and to help the Master in his mission to benefit humanity. So it is not surprising that the Master considered the selfless and ever-free Narendra to be his very own, and that he was attracted to him. The Master's attraction to Narendra may seem surprising, but with a little reflection, one will understand that it was natural and inevitable.
So a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna is writing this because they saw the intense love for each other. Though Shardananda Maharaj and others also experienced the love of Sri Ramakrishna, but in the case of Narendra, it was superlative. So it is because he wanted to make him his own vehicle to spread his message. Yeah, go ahead.
It is almost impossible. Number 11. The Master's love for Narendra was not of a worldly type. It is almost impossible for us to describe the extent to which the Master considered Narendra to be his own and how deeply he loved him from their first meeting. The reasons that prompt worldly people to offer their love to others and consider them as their own were totally absent in this situation. Nowhere else have we seen the anxiety that the Master felt when separated from Narendra, or the joy that he experienced upon seeing him. We had never thought that one could selflessly love another so intensely. We saw how this could be possible only after witnessing the Master's incredible love for Narendra. And we now believe that eventually the day will come when people will experience the manifestation of God in each other and will truly be blessed by pouring selfless love into one another.
We find worldly love. What is the worldly love? Two souls love each other so much that without another they cannot live. But within a year or two, they cannot live together, they fight, and divorce is the solution. So we find worldly love. It is because this is not love. On the other hand, what Sardhanji Maharaj was telling, and Sri Ramakrishna also expressed. Sri Ramakrishna said that when I did not see Narendra, as if my heart is being squeezed. So such intense love, and that's why he would run to see Narendranath, because he wanted to impart the highest gift that is possible, and that is to be spread all over the world. Yes, go ahead.
Number 12, Swami Premananda's testimony. Swami Premananda went to Dakshineshwar for the first time shortly after Narendra's arrival. Because Narendra could not visit Dakshineshwar for a week or more after his third visit, the master was extremely anxious about him. Premananda was amazed by the master's deep concern for Narendra, as he later related to us. Number 30. Swami Premananda's first visit to Dakshineshwar, he notices the master's concern for Narendra. Swami Premananda records, Swami Brahmananda and I went to Hatkula Ghat in West Calcutta to take a boat to Dakshineshwar. We met Ram Dayal there. When we learned that he was also going to see Sri Ramakrishna, we got into a boat together. It was almost dusk when we reached Rani Rashmani's Kali temple. We went to the master's room and were told that he had gone to the temple to make obeisance to the Divine Mother. Swami Brahmananda asked us to wait there and went to the mother's temple to find the master. Soon I saw them coming. Swami Brahmananda was holding on to the master very carefully and guiding him, saying, under quotes, steps, go up here, down here, under quotes. I had already heard that the master often became overwhelmed with ecstasy and lost outer consciousness of his surroundings. So I knew that he was in an ecstatic mood when I saw him coming, reeling like a drunken man. He entered his room in this state and sat on a small bedstead. Shortly afterwards, he came to normal consciousness and asked me a few questions about myself and my relatives. He then began to examine my face, hands, feet, and so on. For some time, he held my forearm in his hand to feel its weight, and then he said, "Good." He alone knew what he meant by that. Afterwards, he asked Ram Dayal about Narendra's health. Hearing that he was all right, the master said, "It's been a long time since he came here. I want to see him. Please ask him to come sometime." Swami Premananda's conclusion after observing the master's anxiety. Swami Premananda is speaking under quotes. We spent a few delightful hours in spiritual talk, then took our supper at 10 p.m. and lay down in the southeast veranda of the master's room. Beds were arranged for the master and for Swami Brahmananda in the room. Scarcely an hour had passed when the master emerged from his room with his cloth under one arm like a boy and came to our bedside. Addressing Ram Dayal, he asked affectionately, "Are you sleeping?" Both of us quickly sat up in our beds and replied, "No, sir." The master said, "Look, I haven't seen Narendra for a long time, and I feel as if my whole heart were being wrung forcibly like a wet towel. Please ask him to come at once to see me. He is a person of pure sattva qualities. He is Narayana himself. I cannot have peace of mind unless I see him now and then." Ramdayal had been visiting Dakshineshwar for some time, so the childlike nature of the master was familiar to him. When he saw that childlike behavior, he knew that the master was in ecstasy. He tried to console the master by promising that he would see Narendra first thing in the morning and ask him to come to Dakshineshwar. But that night, the master's longing could not be appeased. Knowing that we were getting no rest, he would return to his bed for a time, now and then, but after a while, he would forget and come back to us to begin speaking of Narendra's good qualities, pathetically expressing his terrible anguish because of Narendra's long absence. As I observed his agony, I thought to myself, how marvelous is the master's love, and how hard hearted is that person for whom the master is in such distress. We spent the night that way. In the morning, we went to make our obeisance to the Divine Mother in the temple, and then bowed down to the master and took leave of him before returning to Calcutta.
So it is self-explanatory, so nothing to say. Love of Sri Ramakrishna. So his love was such that breaking all barriers. It's not for any return, but it is to have that company, pure-hearted one. You know, this was raised once. Some people asked, "You think about Narendra all the time. Why you do this?" So he did not know the answer, or apparently he did not know. So he asked anyone and everyone. Then the clerk of that Kali temple told that this is in Bhagavata. It is said that those who are samadhivan, those who are merged in samadhi, when they come out of samadhi, where should they put their mind? That is why they search pure-hearted one. And Narendra was such. That is why he had that peace when he talked to Narendra, because he was merged in samadhi most of the time. Whenever he came out of that samadhi, there must be someone who is pure. And that's why he loved so much. Yeah.
Number 15. Vaikuntha describes the master's love for Narendra. One day in 1883, Vaikuntha Nath Sanyal came to Dakshineshwar and found the master anxious because Narendra had not come for a long time. He later described the master's condition, under quotes. That day, the master's mind was fully absorbed in thoughts of Narendra. He spoke of nothing else but what praise he had for him. The master addressed me, saying, "Look, Narendra is a man of pure sattva qualities. I saw in my vision that Narendra was one among the four in the indivisible realm, and also one of the seven rishis."
So there, the note.
We'll read the note at the end. There is no limit to his good qualities. So the four in the indivisible realm, those four are Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. And the seven rishis are Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulaha, Pulastya, Kratu, and Vashishta.
Now one can ask, in one side, one place, Sri Ramakrishna says is Nara Narayana. And again, this. So these are various expressions. The purest soul, after this the first created person when he created. So these are four souls, pure souls. And they are, when you have a country, it is to be governed. Therefore, various ministries are created and ministers are appointed so that everything runs well. So that's why in Hindu pantheon, these are various pure soul. We can say it's divine like. And it is from the sphere where there is no division. It's very difficult to, like when Sri Ramakrishna was before Sri Ramakrishna's passing, Narendranath entered in his room. And with this doubt that I can believe him if he tells me today what he is, whether he is an incarnation or whatever he is. Sri Ramakrishna immediately responded, still you are harboring doubt. He who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is now in this body as Ramakrishna, but not according to your Vedanta. What I wanted to stress here, from Vedanta standpoint, no need of any incarnation, no need of any high soul. It is all one there. But from devotee's standpoint, we have all kinds of things, like even we can say that high soul, that from the indivisible sphere, because we need something to say. But when you attain there, there is nothing that you compare from your day-to-day wordings. So this is another expression so that we understand how high he was. Yes.
I wanted to make a comment here. These four in the indivisible realm are called the Kumaras. Right? There is a Vedantic Acharya named Nimbarkacharya, whose entire philosophy is actually based on the basis of these four Kumaras. They're reading back. After saying that, the master became restless to see Narendra and began shedding tears profusely, like a mother separated from her child. He thought that we might misunderstand him when he could no longer control himself. So he hurried to the northern veranda. We heard him cry in a choked voice, praying, "Dear mother, I can't live without seeing him," and so on. After a while, he controlled himself somehow, returned to his room, and sat near us. He then said plaintively, under quotes, "I weep so much, but Narendra does not come. My desire to see him causes a pain as if my heart were being wrung like a wet towel. He doesn't understand my spiritual attraction to him." Saying so, he again became restless and left the room. He returned shortly and said, "Just see, I am an old man, pining and weeping for Narendra. What will people think of me? You are my own, so I am not ashamed to express my feelings in your presence. But how will others react? I am sorry, but I can't control myself." We were amazed by the master's love for Narendra. We thought that Narendra must be a godlike person, or why would the master be so drawn to him? To console him, we said, "Sir, it is indeed wrong of Narendra. He knows that you feel pain when you can't see him, and still he doesn't come." Sometime after this event, the master introduced me to Narendra. I saw that the master was as anxious when he was separated from Narendra as he was delighted when Narendra visited. Sometime later, we went to Dakshineshwar to celebrate the master's birth anniversary. The devotees had adorned him beautifully with a new cloth, a garland, sandal paste, and so on. Kirtan was arranged in the northeastern veranda of his room. Surrounded by his devotees, the master listened to the kirtan. Sometimes he was in ecstasy, and sometimes he made the kirtan more interesting by improvising a line or two in his sweet voice. But his joy was not complete because of Narendra's absence. Now and then he would look around and say, "Well, Narendra has not come." Narendra arrived about noon and bowed down to the master. As soon as the master saw him, he jumped up, sat on his shoulders, and went into ecstasy. When he regained his normal state afterwards, he became busy with talking to Narendra and feeding him. He could not listen to Kirtan anymore that day.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 16. Narendra remained poised while being the focus of the master's special affection, which indicates his high competency as a spiritual aspirant. The rare divine love that Narendra received from associating with the master is truly amazing. Narendra, however, remained unperturbed by this and proceeded to test the master at every step to realize the truth, proving how much passion he had for truth. The master was not at all offended by Narendra's conduct. On the contrary, he submitted to all kinds of tests for the benefit of his disciple and gladly came forward to help Narendra realize spiritual truth. One is awestruck at the master's humility and magnanimity. The more we discuss the relationship between Narendra and the master, the more we shall marvel at the eagerness of the former to test everything before accepting it and the willingness of the latter to submit to all manner of ordeal so that his disciple could experience the highest spiritual truths. Furthermore, we shall understand how a true guru teaches a highly qualified disciple without disturbing his spiritual attitude, and how the guru consequently occupies a place of love and respect in the heart of that disciple.
So this is a cusp of that incident and interaction with Narendranath. So what is that? Let me read this. We shall understand how a true guru teaches a highly qualified disciple without disturbing his spiritual attitude. So Sri Ramakrishna gave him full freedom so that he can ask questions, he can be appeased, and also his thirst for knowledge be fully satisfied. So this spiritual attitude and how the guru consequently occupied a place of love and respect in the heart of that disciple. So this is our tradition. In our tradition, we can ask questions to our gurus to satisfy ourselves. On the other hand, this is not available to others. So this is the gist of this chapter, that love of Guru on his disciple and not without disturbing his inner quest. So that is that is depicted here in this chapter. So yeah, it's time to stop. So I think everything is self-explanatory, or anything?
Any questions?
Yes.
This is a naive question. What's the difference between the relationship between Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, who was also pure?
As in the beginning I said, it's called Kaya Vyuha. To satisfy the need of a situation or the demand of time. Same incarnation takes various forms. So you can think that these are various alter ego of Sri Ramakrishna. So what Narendranath could do coming here in this foreign country and putting the spiritual truth logically, forcefully That was not the case in the case of Sri Rama, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi. Her way is very simple, like motherly. She even would weep when somebody expressed her anguish or his or her anguish. He would weep to give that sympathy, the same love, various expression. So we can see this is fulfilling that Kaya view. That's why we worship three and also direct disciples, because all those are various manifestation of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, let me tell you one thing. If I show you, I say, this is your picture. You laugh at me. How can this be a picture? See, white face. Then I put some dots and it resembles you. Then I say, okay, now it is a picture. Now, Brahman cannot be expressed. How that can be expressed? That is why these are surrounding. Just imagine that Sri Ramakrishna is Brahman. And these are interaction with ordinary devotees and also high soul alter egos to show what is that divinity is. So these are like some dots or some painting. So I take some color and I say, this is your painting. So these are various colors to express what is inexpressible. So manifestation is different. See, sometimes I would put some black ink. That is also important. So Girish Chandra Ghosh, Kalipada Ghosh, these are also essential to show what Sri Ramakrishna is. So it is your question is not naive. It's a very nice question. It has very important dimension. Otherwise, we cannot understand what Sri Ramakrishna is. So one way it is Narendra, who is logical, who has love for truth. He even doesn't, did not care how Sri Ramakrishna loved him or not loved him. His main concern was his love for truth. On the other hand, Holy Mother, totally surrendered. It may look weird here, but this is another kind of love. And similarly, all direct disciples, even lay disciples, they interacted with Sri Ramakrishna. And we see a wonderful picture. Otherwise, it's not possible. All those interactions are to highlight some divine quality of Sri Ramakrishna. Right? Yeah.
Swamiji, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Can you
please.
hear me?
Yes.
You said that Sri Ramakrishna was Krishna in the Dwapar Yuga. Was Holy Mother Radha then?
Correct. Right. So they are like same person, various dimension. You or anyone, a teacher is teacher and father. Maybe a policeman is a family man. Again, when he dresses up and he becomes a cop. And then similarly, we can say. So these are various guys. So when a divine comes, he comes with all his retinue. With Rama, she was Sita. And not only that, all the representative of Divine Mother in various forms. It is Divine Mother. Even Nanda said, let me come back and I'll show you the worship of the Divine Mother Durga, living Durga. Then only I'm worth of my name. So we see all the manifestation of divine feminine aspect in Sri Sharda Devi. Not only Sita, Radha, all divine manifestations. It may, like it takes time. That's why when we are to read her life, meditate on her, then it gradually dawns onto us. It's not easy. Even this is also difficult. This was also difficult for Narendra to accept as Sri Ramakrishna's incarnation. So this takes time. It is not the form, it is the spirit behind the form. Thank you very much for your question. We say our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tatsat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Swami. Namaste.
Namaste, Hari Om.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Thank you and pranam, Swamiji.